My name is Ethan. Have you ever felt the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, whispering secrets only you could hear? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow across the sky, I stumbled upon a sight that would forever reshape my understanding of reality. A colossal tree, its gnarled roots writhing like serpents, stood sentinel in a hidden glade deep within Pisgah National Forest. The air was thick with an ancient energy, and as the last light faded, shadowy figures gathered around the tree, their voices rising in an eerie chorus that echoed with the weight of sorrow. The legend of the Tree of Lamentations, which I had dismissed as mere folklore, now unfolded before my eyes in vivid, haunting detail. For years, I had served as a forest ranger, patrolling the rugged trails and dense woodlands of this breathtaking sanctuary. I had heard the tales from the elders of Brevard, stories spun like fragile webs, meant to instill reverence for the natural world. They spoke of a mystical tree that bore witness to the lost souls of those who had vanished, their memories entwined with its roots. I had always brushed these tales aside, attributing them to superstition and a yearning for a connection to the wild. But that night, a ritual was unfolding beneath the twilight sky, revealing layers of truth more profound and unsettling than any myth I had ever known. Compelled by a mix of dread and curiosity, I crept closer, each step heavy with the weight of my decision. The symbols carved into the tree's bark seemed to pulsate with life, their meanings lost to me but undeniably significant. The chants of the figures, haunting and melodic, wrapped around me like fog, filling my mind with an unsettling blend of fear and fascination. I realized that this was not merely a gathering, it was a communion with forces far older than humanity itself. As I observed, the atmosphere shifted, the air crackling with an electric tension. I understood that if this ritual continued, it might awaken something profound and dangerous, a power that had long slumbered in the heart of the forest. Yet, the deeper conflict lay within me. I was bound by my duty to protect this sanctuary, but intervening in such an ancient rite could invoke the wrath of those unseen. Would I become a mere intruder in a world I couldn't fully comprehend? Or would I stand idly by, watching the fate of this sacred place unfold without intervention? My heart raced as I weighed the consequences of my actions. The forest, with its towering pines and whispering winds, felt alive, as if it were a character in my story, urging me to choose wisely. As a child, I had often wandered these woods, seeking refuge from a tumultuous home life. The trees had been my solace, their rustling leaves a balm for my troubled spirit. Those memories flooded back, reminding me of the pain and loss that had shaped me. What would it mean to let darkness seep into this haven once again? But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As I stood there, a silent observer caught in the web of the unknown, the atmosphere shifted again, a palpable wave of energy washing over the clearing. The figures around the Tree of Lamentations began to sway, their movements synchronized as if they were marionettes dancing to an ancient tune. I noticed one figure, a woman cloaked in a flowing gown that seemed to be woven from shadows, her face obscured by a veil. There was something hauntingly familiar about her, and I felt an inexplicable pull toward her presence. Suddenly she turned, and I was locked in her gaze, eyes like deep pools of sorrow that held centuries of untold stories. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rising chant. "The tree can sense your fear." Her warning sent a shiver down my spine, and I instinctively took a step back. But the roots of the tree twisted almost as if they were beckoning me closer, urging me to confront the truth I had long denied. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling slightly. "What is this place?" "My name is Selena," she replied, stepping forward, the shadows swirling around her like a cloak. "I am a guardian of the tree, one of the last who remember its true purpose, The souls that linger here are trapped between worlds, and tonight we attempt to free them. I felt a mix of disbelief and intrigue. Free them? But what if it awakens something dark? Celine interrupted, her tone sharp. That fear is exactly what brought you here. You've been chosen, Ethan. Your connection to this land runs deeper than you realize. Her words struck a chord within me, resonating with the memories of my childhood, the solace I had found among these trees, the whispers of the forest that had guided me when I felt lost. Before I could respond, another figure emerged from the shadows, a man with a rugged demeanor, his face etched with lines of worry. Celine, we don't have time for this, he said urgently, glancing at me with suspicion. If he's here, it could disrupt the balance. We need to focus. Focus, I echoed, feeling the weight of their conflict pressing down on me. What do you mean, disrupt the balance? I'm just a ranger. Just a ranger? The man scoffed. You're more than that. You've felt the pull of the forest, haven't you? This place calls to you. And now that you've found the tree, you can't just walk away. Confusion bubbled within me as I grappled with their words. I had always thought my role was simply to protect the park, to maintain the trails and educate visitors. But now I was thrust into a reality where my very presence could shift the tides of fate. Listen to me, Selena said, her voice softening. The tree feeds on emotions, love, regret, grief. It thrives on the energy of those who come near. If we fail tonight, it will consume more than just the souls trapped here. It will reach into the heart of the forest, spreading darkness throughout. As their urgency sank in, I felt the ground beneath me pulse again, mirroring the chaos in my mind. Torn between my instinct to flee and an overwhelming need to understand, I took a deep breath. What do you want me to do? Celine and the man exchanged a glance, the tension between them palpable. We need your help, the man said, his tone shifting from dismissive to earnest. You may be the key to unlocking what has been sealed. Away for too long, but you must embrace the pain you've buried, the fears that haunt you. The weight of their expectations pressed down on me, and I felt a swell of emotions, fear, doubt, and an unexpected flicker of hope. As the chanting crescendoed, the shadows around us thickened, and I realized the stakes were higher than I could have imagined. My heart raced, and I nodded slowly, steeling myself for what lay ahead. But as I took my first step toward the tree, the ground trembled violently. The shadowy figures recoiled, and Selena's eyes widened in alarm. No, you must be ready. I had crossed a threshold, and whatever power lay dormant within the Tree of Lamentations was awakening. I could feel it, a surge of energy that threatened to engulf us all. The night was just beginning, and I was unprepared for the darkness that awaited. As I took that fateful step toward the Tree of Lamentations, the ground beneath me quaked violently, and a sudden rush of memories surged forth, visions from my childhood that I had buried deep within my mind. I saw myself as a boy, wandering these woods, my heart racing, as I stumbled upon a hidden grove where the trees whispered secrets in the wind. But alongside those memories, darker images emerged. A shadowy figure lurking just beyond the tree line, a feeling of being watched, and an overwhelming sense of dread that had chased me ever since. Ethan! Celine's voice broke through my reverie. Focus! You cannot let those memories consume you. But how could I not? The fear that gripped me was not just from the unknown. It was a familiar echo of my childhood trauma, a reminder of the night. I had lost something precious. That night, the darkness had felt alive, and I had run without looking back, leaving behind a part of myself in these woods. Now, standing before the tree, I felt as if those buried fears were clawing their way back into the light. The man, whose name I still didn't know, stepped closer, his expression shifting from concern to something akin to urgency. You need to confront it, Ethan. The darkness you feel, it's connected to you. It's a part of you. What do you mean? I stammered, my voice shaking. I'm just a ranger. I don't have anything to do with this. Think, he urged, frustration etched across his rugged features. You've felt the pull of this place for years. You've always been drawn to the shadows, haven't you? The tree is awakening because it senses your pain. You need to let it go or it will consume you. With those words, a revelation hit me like a lightning bolt. I remembered the stories. My grandmother used to tell me whispers of a family curse that had haunted us for generations. The forest remembers, she had said, and so do you. My heart raced as I pieced it together. The lingering shadow from my past wasn't just a figment of my imagination. It was a legacy, a darkness that had been passed down. And now it was here, alive and waiting. Suddenly, the tree emitted a low, resonant hum, vibrating through the air. Celine and the man exchanged fearful glances, and I realized that my presence wasn't just a catalyst for the tree. It was a key to unlocking something far more sinister. As I stood there, trapped between my past and the present, I felt the shadows closing in. You've known this all along, haven't you? I accused, turning to Celine. You knew I was connected to this place. You brought me here to face it. Her eyes widened in shock, but I could see the truth in her expression. I didn't know the extent of it, she replied, her voice trembling. But I knew you were part of the story. We all are. The air crackled with tension, and the chanting reached a fever pitch. The ground shifted beneath us, and the roots of the tree writhed violently. I could feel the darkness rising, and suddenly I wasn't just an observer. I was at the center of a storm that threatened to engulf everyone. The realization hit me like a wave. The answers I sought were buried within me, and to confront the tree, I had to confront my own demons. As the shadows converged, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This was just the beginning, and I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole would go. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing the primal fear that coursed through me. The shadows writhed like living tendrils, creeping closer, and I realized I stood at the precipice of a reckoning. This wasn't just about the Tree of Lamentations. It was about the darkness that had festered within me for years, a darkness that had grown roots in my very soul. The man, my guide, my tormentor, stepped forward, his eyes locked onto mine. Ethan, you must claim your power. Only then can you break the cycle. His voice was steady, yet the tremor in his hands betrayed his nerves. I could sense his desperation, the way he wanted to save me from the very fate I feared. What if I can't? I shot back, the words spilling from my lips in a rush. What if the darkness is too strong? Celine, standing rigid beside the man, took a step forward. You faced shadows before. Remember the boy who found the hidden grove? He didn't run. He stood tall. Her voice was soothing yet insistent, a reminder of the strength I thought I had lost. The shadows coalesced into a swirling mass before me, a shapeless form that pulsed with malice, and suddenly I was back in that hidden grove. I could feel the cool breeze against my skin, the whispers of the trees echoing in my ears. But this time, the shadows weren't just lurking, they were solidifying, forming the dark figure from my past, the very essence of my fears, my regrets. Face. Me, I shouted, my voice breaking the eerie silence. You don't own me anymore. The figure recoiled slightly, as if my words had struck a nerve, and in that moment I felt a flicker of power ignite within me. I am not that scared boy anymore. I am more than you. I pushed against the shadows, feeling the warmth of the light I had buried deep inside. The man and Celine stepped closer, their presence a shield against the encroaching darkness. Together, Celine urged, her voice cutting through the chaos. Draw on each other's strength. I looked at them, their faces a mix of determination and fear. In that instant, I understood. This wasn't just my fight. It was ours. We were bound by the same curse, the same history, and now we had the chance to rewrite our story. With one collective breath, we reached out, our hands clasping together, forming a circle of unity. The shadows writhed in fury, Sensing the shift in power, I felt their pull, their despair. But I also felt the flicker of hope grow stronger between us. "I will not be defined by my past," I declared, channeling my energy into the circle. "We will break the curse." As our voices harmonized, I felt the ground tremble beneath us, the roots of the tree responding to our call. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage and fear, and I knew this was the moment of truth, the decisive confrontation where everything could change. The darkness surged, and I braced myself for the storm ahead. I could see the flicker of light at the edge of the shadows, beckoning me forward. This was it. I was ready to face the darkness head-on. I braced myself as the shadows surged forward, a tempest of darkness threatening to engulf us. My heart raced, each pulse a reminder of the stakes, the lives intertwined with mine, the choices that had led us here. I felt the warmth of Celine and the man beside me, a tether of hope in the chaos. Together, we were a beacon against the storm. As I channeled our combined strength, the darkness writhed violently, shrieks echoing in my ears. I could feel its malevolence clawing at my mind, dredging up memories I had long buried. Visions of my past flickered in and out, my failures, my fears, the boy I had been, all converging into a singular moment of truth. I pressed on, forcing my voice through the cacophony. "We are not afraid!" The shadows screamed a defiance as I felt the light within us swell, pushing against the encroaching darkness. The swirl of shadowy tendrils began to unravel, the figure from my past flickering like a dying flame. I could see it for what it truly was, a manifestation of my own doubts, a creature of my own making. In that realization, I found clarity. With a final, defiant shout, I released the light I had cultivated, letting it explode outward in a brilliant wave. The darkness shrieked in agony as it was consumed by the radiance, and for a fleeting moment I felt weightless, free, but that sensation shattered as the shadows recoiled, collapsing into themselves before dissipating entirely. As silence fell, I collapsed to my knees, the energy draining from me. I felt the bruises of the battle forming on my skin, a testament to the struggle I had just endured. Celine fell beside me, her breathing ragged, her face pale but resolute. The man, my guide, stood a few paces away, visibly shaken but alive. The air around us felt different, charged with a lingering tension that hinted at unresolved mysteries. "We did it," Celine murmured, but there was an edge to her voice that suggested uncertainty. The shadows had retreated, but I could sense an undercurrent of darkness lingering just beyond the edges of my vision, a malevolence that had not been fully vanquished. "What now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The fight had left its mark, not just physically, but emotionally. We were scarred, yet somehow we had triumphed. The man looked at me, a glint of worry in his eyes. "This isn't over, Ethan. The tree of lamentations is still a nexus of power. The darkness will return unless we confront its origins." Celine nodded, her gaze shifting to the horizon where the shadows had fled. "We need to understand what we've unleashed. There are more secrets hidden in this grove. The past is not done with us yet." As I rose, I felt the weight of their words settle on my shoulders. This victory came at a price, and the scars I bore would serve as reminders of the battle fought and the battles yet to come. I glanced at the grove, the tree of lamentations standing tall despite the turmoil. A glimmer caught my eye, something nestled among the roots, a glint of silver that hadn't been there before. "Wait," I said, moving toward the tree. "There's something here." As I knelt to inspect the silver object, an unsettling chill swept through the air, a reminder that while we had triumphed today, the shadows were merely waiting, watching for the right moment to strike again. The path forward was unclear, but I knew one thing: our journey had only just begun. I reached down, fingers trembling, and grasped the silver object buried among the roots of the tree of lamentations. As I pulled it free, an icy chill swept through me and my breath caught in my throat. It was a small, ornate mirror, its surface reflecting not just my image, but the shadows lurking just beyond the light. Dark, twisted versions of my own face, eyes filled with despair and rage. My heart thundered in my chest as realization dawned. No, it can't be. The mirror pulsed with a malevolent energy, and memories I had fought to suppress surged forth. My deepest fears, the weight of my failures, the loved ones I had lost, all bubbling to the surface. I had thought I was fighting the shadows, but in truth I was battling the very essence of my own torment, the fears I had buried deep, now clawing their way back to the surface. Celine moved closer, her eyes wide with horror. Ethan, what is that? It's a reflection of everything I fear. I could feel the tendrils of darkness wrapping around my mind, drawing me into a void of despair. The shadows I had fought were not external, they were me. My worst nightmare had come to life, and I was powerless to stop it. No, I screamed, but the shadows surged, consuming my vision as I felt my resolve shatter. The cold grip of hopelessness tightened around my throat, and I knew in that moment I had lost. As the darkness enveloped me, the last thing I saw was Celine's anguished face, her voice fading into the abyss. I was trapped in the very nightmare I had sought to escape, a prisoner of my own making. The grove faded, and with it, the light, leaving only the echo of my fears behind. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story. My name is Gabriel. Have you ever felt the weight of an unseen presence, the kind that makes your skin crawl, as if the very air around you is charged with secrets? On one such fog-laden night, while I was patrolling a secluded trail in the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest, I stumbled upon a scene that would forever alter my perception of reality. In the midst of swirling mist, a shimmering surface caught my eye, an ethereal mirror reflecting warped images of the wilderness around me. It was then that I glimpsed shadows flitting between the trees, fleeting figures appearing and vanishing like whispers on the wind. It felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath, guarding a truth as deep and twisted as the fog that enveloped it. For years, I have been tasked with protecting these lands, a responsibility I embraced fiercely. The wildlife, the towering pines, and the rushing rivers have always been my companions. Yet, beneath the beauty of this vast wilderness lies an undercurrent of mystery, tales of cursed paths and unexplained phenomena whispered among the locals. I had always thought these stories were mere folklore, spun from the imagination of small-town dwellers. But standing there, bathed in the eerie glow of that mirror-like surface, I realized that I was now part of a narrative far more surreal than I could have ever anticipated. That trail, shrouded in fog that seemed to breathe, had transformed into a gateway to a reality where time and truth entwined, creating a tapestry of the inexplicable. As I ventured closer to the shimmering surface, curiosity battled with trepidation. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but an irresistible pull urged me forward. I began to notice peculiar traces left on the path, unfamiliar footprints that didn't belong to any animal I recognized, a chill that penetrated the air, and faint echoes of voices that seemed to resonate from the depths of the forest. Each clue was a thread in a tapestry woven with shadows, hinting at something or someone, manipulating the very essence of this landscape. The unsettling question loomed larger in my mind. Was this fog conjured to veil a supernatural phenomenon? Or was the mirror of the forest a reflection of an ancient curse, ensnaring the unwary in its grasp? As I stood there, the memories of my past surged like a tidal wave. Years ago, I had lost my younger sister, Emily, during a hiking trip in these very woods. The ache of her absence had become a part of me, an unhealed scar that colored every step I took in the forest. The locals often spoke of how the spirits of the lost lingered in these woods, seeking closure or revenge. Could it be that the forest was not just a sanctuary, but also a graveyard of unspoken stories waiting for someone to listen? The night air thickened, and with it came the suffocating weight of unresolved grief. But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. The night deepened, the fog thickened around me, wrapping me in its damp embrace. My heart raced, the weight of my memories pressing down with renewed force. I was no longer alone in this ethereal woods. I could feel it in my bones. The shadows seemed to dance closer, their movements growing frantic, as if urging me to understand something I had yet to grasp. The shimmering surface of the mirror pulsed with an otherworldly light, beckoning me toward the truth hidden within its depths. Just then, a rustle in the underbrush broke the spell of silence. I turned sharply, my instincts honed from years of patrolling. Emerging from the shadows was a figure, a woman, disheveled and wild-eyed, her clothes tattered as if she'd been lost for days. She appeared to be in her 30s, but there was a timelessness about her, as if she had walked these woods for generations. Her gaze was piercing, filled with a blend of fear and urgency. "Gabriel," she called out, her voice trembling, "you must help me. They're coming for me." I took a cautious step back, my heart pounding. "Who's coming?" I demanded, though a part of me already sensed the answer. "The lost souls," she whispered, her breath hitching as she glanced over her shoulder, her eyes wide with terror. "They've trapped me here, and they won't let me go until someone takes my place." The weight of her words settled heavily upon me. I opened my mouth to respond, but the shadows in the trees seemed to shift, almost alive, as if they were eavesdropping on our exchange. I could feel my grip on reality slipping like the mist around us. "What's your name?" I managed to ask, searching for a connection in this surreal moment. "Clara," she breathed, her gaze darting back to the swirling fog. "I was hiking with my brother when the forest, it changed, it twisted, and now he's gone. He's been taken. I can still hear his cries." Her anguish struck a chord deep within me, flooding back memories of Emily's laughter before that fateful day. I could see the same desperation in Clara's eyes that I had felt for years, the longing for closure, for connection. "Ama, sorry," I said, my voice softening. "I lost someone too, my sister, Emily." Clara's eyes widened, and for a brief moment a flicker of recognition crossed her face. The forest, it feeds on our grief. It thrives on those like us, lost and broken. You can't let it take you too. As her warning hung in the air, I felt the ground beneath me tremble. A low growl resonated from somewhere deep within the trees, and the temperature plummeted. Shadows coiled around us, thickening, and the mirror-like surface began to ripple violently. "Stay close to me," urged Clara, but she had already taken a step back, her eyes filled with dread. "You don't understand. You shouldn't be here. It's too late for me, but you can still escape." "No," I shouted, feeling a surge of determination. "I'm not leaving you." Just then, a chorus of distant cries echoed through the trees, ethereal and haunting. The shadows surged, and I realized they were forming figures. Lost spirits, their faces twisted in sorrow and rage. They were drawn to our grief, hungry for more. "Gabriel!" Clara screamed, stumbling backward as the spirits reached for her. "You have to go. I can't hold them back." In that instant, I felt the weight of my sister's absence and Clara's desperate plea collide within me. I had always thought of myself as a protector of these woods, but now I found myself standing at the crossroads of my own haunted past and an uncertain future. The forest had become a battleground, and I could either turn away and save myself or confront the darkness that sought to claim us both. I tightened my grip on my flashlight, its beam now a fragile defiance against the encroaching shadows. Clara's fear mirrored my own, but I couldn't abandon her. together, I whispered fiercely, stepping closer to her as the spirits closed in, their mournful cries echoing in the night. We faced this together. But the forest had its own plans, and as the shadows lunged, I knew that the true battle for our souls was just beginning. As I braced myself against the encroaching shadows, a sudden blinding flash of light erupted from the mirror, illuminating the forest with an eerie glow. I squinted, the light almost painful, and then I heard it, a voice, soft yet commanding, resonating from the depths of the mirror. Gabriel, it called, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The voice was familiar yet distant, laced with a haunting melody that echoed in my mind. You are not who you think you are. I hesitated, confusion swirling in my thoughts. What do you mean? My voice trembled as I glanced at Clara, who now seemed to waver, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. The forest knows your heart, your grief, the voice continued, weaving through the air. It feeds on you just as it feeds on her. Your past is intertwined with Clara's in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Enough! Clara shouted, her eyes wide with fear. Don't listen to it, Gabriel. It's trying to manipulate you. But the voice persisted, growing stronger, more insistent. You lost your sister, and in your despair, you have drawn the spirits to you. You blame yourself for her disappearance, but the truth is darker. You were never meant to lead the patrols. You were meant to be the sacrifice. The ground shook again, and a surge of memories flooded my mind. Fragments of laughter, warmth, and then a sudden icy void. I remembered the day Emily vanished, how I had been too late to save her, how I had thought I could protect those in the woods, but the whispers of doubt began to creep in. What if I had been drawn here for a reason? What if I was meant to pay for my past? Gabriel, Clara's voice broke through my reverie, grounding me. Don't let it twist your mind, it's lying. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of uncertainty there. What if she was right? What if my presence in this forest was a consequence of my own unresolved grief? The spirits hovered closer, their whispers now a cacophony of accusations and regrets. I felt their cold fingers brushing against me, each touch igniting old wounds. Clara, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, what really happened to your brother? Her expression shifted, a fleeting shadow crossing her face. I don't know. He was right beside me, then he just vanished. It's as if the forest swallowed him whole. Was he lost in the woods, or was he taken? I pressed. A burgeoning realization dawning. I told you, she cried, her voice breaking. I can still hear him. But it's not just his cries. Sometimes I hear whispers that sound like what? I urged, heart racing. Like Emily, she whispered, and the world around us tilted. In an instant, the fog thickened, swallowing the light, and I stumbled back, my pulse quickening. The shadows transformed into a swirling mass, and I felt a surge of dread wash over me. The revelation hung in the air like a shroud, each word echoing with the weight of unspoken truths. Gabriel, Clara said, her voice low and trembling. What if the forest isn't just a prison for lost souls? What if it's a trap for us, meant to bind our grief forever? As the shadows closed in, I realized I was not just fighting for Clara's freedom. I was battling the very essence of my own torment. The past had come to reclaim me, and with it, the truth I had buried deep within. The forest was alive, and it had chosen its prey. The shadows thickened around us, pulsating with a life of their own, as I grappled with Clara's. Revelation. A trap, I murmured, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. The air crackled with tension, and I felt the weight of the forest pressing down on me, urging me to succumb to the depths of despair. Gabriel, Clara shouted, her voice soaring above the whispers. We need to fight back. We can't let it take us. But how could I fight against something that lived in the marrow of my bones? The voice from the mirror echoed in my mind, a relentless reminder of my failures. I could almost see Emily's face in the swirling shadows, her eyes pleading for me to remember, to forgive myself. I had spent years cloaked in guilt, convinced that I was responsible for her disappearance, that I had failed her when she needed me most. "Why is it showing me this?" I yelled, my voice strained as the shadows twisted around us, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to mock my pain. "What does it want from me?" "It wants to keep us here," Clara cried, panic rising in her tone. "It feeds on our grief, our regrets. But we can break free. We have to believe that we're more than our past." I felt a surge of defiance rise within me. The forest may have drawn me in with its dark allure, but I was done being a puppet, to my sorrow. "You're right," I shouted, shaking off the doubts that had begun to weave themselves around my heart. "We're not just victims. We can fight back." But as I turned to Clara, I noticed something unsettling in her expression. Her eyes shimmered with a strange light, and for a moment I could have sworn I saw a flicker of something darker beneath the surface. "Gabriel," she said slowly, "what if the forest is giving us a chance to confront our pain? To let it go? Or to trap us forever?" I retorted, my heart racing. "You can't trust it, Clara. It's manipulating us." Just then a figure emerged from the shadows, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat. It was a boy, no, a young man, cloaked in darkness, his features eerily familiar. "Clara," he called, his voice laced with sorrow. "Help me." "David." "Clara," gasped, stepping forward as if entranced. "You're alive!" "Don't listen to him," I screamed, desperately grasping her arm. "It's a trick. The forest is trying to lure you in." But the moment hung suspended, the tension thick enough to slice through. Clara's gaze darted between me and the figure, her heart torn. What if he's telling the truth? What if he needs my help? Or what if he's just another manifestation of the forest's deception? I shouted, my voice a raw plea. We can't afford to be swayed by our desires. The ground trembled beneath us, and the air grew heavy with an impending storm. I could feel the forest's hunger, its insatiable need to consume our grief. It was a battle of wills, a fight not just against the shadows, but against the very essence of my identity. In that heartbeat, I made my choice. Clara, we have to face this together. We're stronger united. Whatever the forest throws at us, we'll push back with everything we have. As I reached for her hand, the shadows swirled violently around us, and I knew we were on the brink of something monumental. The forest was relentless, but so were we. The outcome of this moment would determine not just our fate, but the fate of all the lost souls trapped within its depths. The moment I grasped Clara's hand, a surge of energy coursed through me, igniting a fire deep within my soul. I could feel the shadows recoiling, their grip loosening, as if our unity had struck a fragile chord in the heart of the forest. Together, I whispered, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. As we stood side by side, the figure of David flickered, caught between the realms of longing and despair. "Clara?" he pleaded, desperation etched into his features. "I need you. I can't find my way. Help me!" "No," I shouted, my heart pounding. I pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of her presence fortifying my resolve. "We can't give in. This isn't real. It's a mirage, a manifestation of our fears." Clara hesitated, the conflict playing out in her eyes. But the shadows continued to twist and writhe, feeding off her uncertainty. "Gabriel, what if he really is trapped? What if he's a victim, like us?" "No," I cried, my voice cracking. "He's a tool, a weapon used by this forest to tear us apart. Remember why we're here. Remember Emily." At the mention of her name, a wave of sorrow washed over me, but I pushed it down, using it as fuel. I focused on the image of Emily's smile, her laughter echoing in my mind. With that thought, I summoned every ounce of strength I had left. "We are not lost. We are fighters." The shadows roared in defiance, but I felt Clara's grip tighten around my hand, her resolve strengthening. "You're right, Gabriel. We won't let it take us. We can break this cycle." With a fierce determination, we faced the darkness together. The air thickened, and a sudden burst of light erupted from our clasped hands, radiating outward like a beacon. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the brightness as if it were holy water. But as the light enveloped us, I felt a sharp pain slice through my side. I stumbled, the shadows clawing at my flesh, leaving behind sinister marks that burned like fire. Clara gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "Gabriel, I'm okay," I gritted out, though the pain was real, an indelible reminder of the forest's grasp. With one final push, we thrust our light into the heart of the darkness, and with a deafening roar, the shadows shattered, dissipating into the night like ash on the wind. In that moment, the forest felt different. The air was still and quiet, the oppressive weight lifting as the darkness retreated. But as the shadows faded, I noticed something lingering, a flicker of movement in the trees, a whisper of a presence that refused to be extinguished. David's figure faltered, and I could see the anguish etched into his features as he began to dissolve into mist. "Clara, don't forget me," he cried, the last remnants of his voice echoing in the silence. "David." Clara reached out, but he was gone, leaving behind a chilling void of loss. I turned to her, the weight of our victory mixed with a new sorrow. "We did it, but at what cost?" Clara finished, her voice trembling. "We're free, but there's still so much we don't understand." I glanced around, the forest now eerily quiet, but the lingering shadows told me this wasn't over. A sense of foreboding settled over me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lurked beneath the surface. As we stepped away from the remnants of the darkness, I noticed others emerging from the trees, figures I recognized from the whispers of the forest. They were lost souls, remnants of those who had come before us, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and despair. I realized then that we hadn't just freed ourselves, we had ignited a possibility for others to escape as well. But one question remained. What had we awakened within the forest? As Clara and I made our way back through the now familiar terrain, I felt a pang of unease. The scars on my side throbbed, a constant reminder of our encounter. I glanced at Clara, who carried her own wounds, both physical and emotional. "We have to find a way to help them," she said, determination flickering in her eyes. I nodded, but deep down, I knew that whatever we had faced was merely the beginning. The forest still held its secrets, and I sensed that our journey was far from over. As we ventured forward, a new mystery began to unfold, tugging at the edges of my mind. Who else was still trapped? And what else lay hidden in the shadows, waiting? For us to return, the forest had released us, but it had not released its hold. And as we stepped back into the world beyond, I realized that our fight was only just beginning. As we stepped into the uncertain light of dawn, the forest behind us remained shrouded in an unsettling silence. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground itself were reluctant to let us go. Clara and I exchanged glances, our minds still grappling with the remnants of our battle against the shadows. The faces of the lost souls flickered in my memory, their eyes pleading for salvation even as they faded into the gloom. "What now?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I sensed the weight of her question, the fear that lingered just beneath the surface. Whatever we had conquered, it had left scars on our hearts, scars that would not easily fade. The path ahead twisted like a serpent, darkened by the trees that loomed overhead. I felt the forest's breath on my neck, a chilling reminder that we had not escaped its grasp entirely. "We need to find a way to help them," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. But deep down, a gnawing dread took root. What if the shadows returned? What if they were just waiting, lurking in the depths of the forest, biding their time until we let our guard down? The thought tightened around my chest like a vice. As we emerged from the tree line, the sun began to rise, casting long shadows that danced ominously behind us. I turned for one last look at the forest, its dark secrets whispering in the wind. The moment felt charged, as if the air itself held its breath, waiting for something to unfold. Then I saw it. A figure standing at the edge of the trees, a familiar silhouette. My heart raced, and I felt Clara's hand grip mine tighter. Was it David? Had he returned, or was it another trick of the forest? "Gabriel, we should go," Clara urged, her voice laced with panic, but I couldn't move. The figure beckoned, and a chill ran down my spine. As I stood frozen, the shadows began to creep back, swirling around us like a storm. I realized then that our victory had not come without a price. The forest had only paused, and its hunger remained insatiable. Would we be able to confront it again? Or had we merely awakened something darker, something that would haunt us forever? The uncertainty loomed heavy as the shadows closed in, and I knew that our journey was far from over. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story. My name is Rowan. Have you ever stumbled upon a place that felt alive, yet eerily still, as if it held its breath, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets? One misty morning, while patrolling the heart of Superior National Forest, I encountered such a place, a natural graveyard where ancient roots twisted and turned like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky, each one a silent testament to the lives long past. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and in the heart of that cursed ground, I heard whispers, murmurs that seemed to call out from the depths of the earth, invoking an ancestral pact with the spirits of the forest, thirsty for vengeance and justice. For years, I've worked as a forest ranger, patrolling these woods, safeguarding their beauty and tranquility. I grew up in Duluth, where stories of the Root Cemetery were often shared around campfires, woven into the fabric of locally lore, a place the ancients warned us to respect, lest we disturb the restless spirits that lingered in the shadows. Those tales were cautionary, meant to instill a reverence for nature's mysteries. Yet standing amidst that chilling tableau, I realized I was not merely a listener of these stories, I was now a part of one, caught in the web of a curse that had haunted this land for generations. The morning was cold, the mist curling around my ankles like the fingers of lost souls. The trees stood tall but seemed to lean in closer, their branches whispering secrets I wasn't yet ready to understand. I approached the graveyard, drawn in by an inexplicable force, my heart racing with a blend of fear and curiosity. What I found there would change everything. The roots, gnarled and twisted, bore strange symbols, inscriptions that hinted at a pact made between the forest spirits and the ancient guardians who once roamed these woods. Each symbol told a story, each root a memory, and I felt the weight of the past pressing down on me. But as I delved deeper, I felt a creeping unease. Something was not right. The air grew thick, charged with an energy that prickled my skin and made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It was then that I became acutely aware of the forest around me. The trees seemed to shift, shadows danced just beyond my line of sight, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. I felt as though I were being watched, as if the very land itself was scrutinizing my every move, weighing my intentions. I had buried my own secrets in the soil of this forest, losses that haunted me, moments I wished I could erase. The death of my sister Lily during a hiking trip when we were children had left an indelible mark on my soul. I could still hear her laughter echoing through the trees, a haunting melody that both comforted and tormented me. Now, as I stood before the Root Cemetery, I questioned whether my past was somehow intertwined with the mysteries that lay before me. As I examined the symbols and inscriptions, the forest began to shift, the tranquil silence giving way to an unnerving quiet. I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet, a pulse that matched the frantic beat of my heart. It dawned on me that I was standing on the threshold of something much larger than myself, a portal to forces that could unravel the delicate balance of nature itself. I faced a dilemma. Should I expose the truth I was unraveling, risking the wrath of the spirits? Or should I bury it, allowing the curse to remain hidden forever, haunting the land? But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shrouding the forest in an inky darkness, I felt a shiver race down my spine. The whispers intensified, weaving through the trees like a sinister wind, and I could no longer deny that I was not alone. Shadows flickered at the edge of my vision, shapes darting between the trees, figures that seemed to emerge from the very fabric of the night. My heart raced, and I instinctively reached for my flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness like a sword. That was when I saw her, a silhouette standing among the twisted roots, her gaze locked onto mine. She was cloaked in a tattered shawl, her long hair cascading like dark water down her back. "You should not be here," she warned, her voice a haunting echo that seemed to meld with the wind. I recognized her from the stories, the ghostly figure of the forest, said to be the last descendant of the guardians who once protected this land. I had thought her a mere myth, a cautionary tale to keep children close to the campfire. "Who are you?" I stammered, clutching my flashlight like a lifeline. "What do you want?" "I am Elowen," she replied, stepping closer, her form flickering like the flames of a dying fire. "I am bound to this place, as are you. The forest remembers your sorrow, Rowan, and it calls to you." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I felt a weight pressing down on my chest, as if the forest itself was drawing forth my grief. "I came to protect it," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, "but I didn't mean to disturb anything." "Disturbance is inevitable," she replied, her eyes narrowing. "To uncover the truth is to awaken the spirits that dwell here. They seek resolution for the wrongs committed long ago, wrongs that involve you and your family." My breath caught in my throat. The death of my sister had always felt like an accident, a tragic mistake. But what if it was more than that? My mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. "What do you mean? How could my family be involved?" Before she could answer, a sharp crack echoed through the woods and the ground trembled beneath us. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding as a thick fog rolled in, swirling around our feet like a living creature. In that moment, I understood that I was standing on the precipice of something far greater than I had ever imagined. A tangled web of history, betrayal, and supernatural vengeance. "Run!" Elowen shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. "You must find the heart of the forest, the altar where the pact was made. Only there can you confront the spirits and seek their forgiveness." Panic surged through me as the shadows thickened, coiling around my legs like serpents. I turned to flee, but not before I caught a glimpse of something lurking in the dark, an ominous figure with hollow eyes, watching me with an intensity that froze my blood. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, angry and unforgiving. I dashed through the underbrush, branches clawed at my clothes, and the whispers crescendoed into a cacophony of voices, each one vying for my attention, demanding to be heard. I felt my resolve falter, uncertainty gnawing at me. Was it worth risking everything to uncover the truth? Or would I be swallowed whole by the very shadows I sought to escape? The forest seemed to close in around me, its ancient roots shifting, the ground trembling beneath my feet. In that moment of primal fear, I realized I had crossed a threshold, from mere observer to unwilling participant in a dark narrative that had been unfolding long before I was born. It was then that I heard a familiar voice rising above the chaos, echoing through the trees. "Rowan." The name was a whisper, a plea that cut through the night. I halted in my tracks, my heart racing as the memories surged forth. Lily's laughter, her spirit entwined with the very essence of this forest. I was not just fighting for my life, I was fighting for her memory, for the justice she never received. With renewed determination, I pressed onward, driven by a desire to not only survive, but to uncover the truth that had bound my family and the spirits of this forest together. As I raced deeper into the shadows, I could feel the weight of the past closing in, and I knew that I was far from finished. The real challenge was only just beginning. I dashed deeper into the forest, my heart pounding like a war drum. The fog thickened around me, curling like ghostly fingers, and the whispers morphed into a single, haunting chorus that echoed my name. Rowan. Rowan. It was as if the forest itself was mocking me, reminding me of the burdens I carried. Then, an unexpected memory crashed over me, uninvited and jarring. I was 8 years old, sitting on the swing set in our backyard, swinging high, higher than I thought possible. Lily, with her golden hair and mischievous smile, pushed me from behind. "You can fly, Rowan. Just believe it." Her laughter echoed like a bell, pure and bright. But that day the laughter faded, replaced by the frantic shouts of my parents as they rushed to find her, lost in the woods, a place we were always warned about. "Lily!" I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat like a wounded animal. I had been the one to convince her to explore, to venture into the depths of our backyard, which was more forest than yard. The guilt had hung over me like a shroud ever since. What if my encouragement had led her to her fate? Suddenly, the ground trembled violently beneath me, snapping me back to the present. I stumbled, falling to my knees as the whispers crescendoed. "You're guilty, Rowan. You're the reason she's gone." The voices twisted and turned, becoming a dark tapestry of accusation. I pressed my hands to my ears, willing them to stop, but they only grew louder, relentless. "Rowan!" Elowen's voice broke through the cacophony, echoing like a lighthouse beam in the storm. "Focus, you're not guilty. This is their manipulation." I looked up, and for a brief moment, I saw her, Elowen, her form shimmering with an ethereal glow, but behind her, shadows lengthened, coiling into grotesque shapes. A figure stepped forward, its hollow eyes narrowing on me. It was a man, tall and gaunt, his features twisted in rage. My breath caught. "No, it can't be." "Who is he?" I gasped, my voice trembling. "Elowen!" The figure's voice was a low growl filled with venom. "She knows the truth, Rowan. Your sister's death was no accident. It was a sacrifice." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt the ground shift beneath me again, and I realized the shadows were not just spirits. They were memories, dark and twisted. I had been so focused on the forest's history that I hadn't considered my own. "Sacrifice," I repeated, confusion and fear wrestling within me. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "The pact your family made with the forest, to protect it, to bind it to your bloodline. But the forest demands a price, and you are the key." A cold realization gripped me. I wasn't just an outsider. I was entwined in this cursed legacy, just as much a part of the forest's history as the spirits that haunted it. I stumbled backward, the weight of my family's secret crashing down on me like a wave. "Rowan!" Elowen's voice pierced through my spiraling thoughts, but the shadows were closing in, the air thick with tension. "You must confront it. Only then can you find peace for your sister." I hesitated, panic rising, as I wrestled with the truth that threatened to shatter my sanity. The forest had been calling to me for years, and now I understood why. It was time to face the darkness that lurked in my past, to uncover the buried secrets that tied my family to this ancient, vengeful place. With a deep breath, I steeled myself. I was not just fighting for my life. I was fighting to reclaim the memory of Lily and the truth of our family's legacy. The altar awaited, and with each step, I felt the burden of the past weighing heavily on my shoulders. But I would not run. I would confront whatever awaited me in the heart of the forest. I pressed forward, each step deeper into the forest, feeling like a step into the mouth of a beast. The air grew colder, wrapping around me like a suffocating veil. The whispers had morphed into a single piercing chant, a dirge that echoed through the trees, urging me toward the heart of the darkened woods. "Rowan, Rowan," they called, but now it was a summons, not just an accusation. As I approached a clearing, the pulse of the forest intensified, a throbbing rhythm that resonated with my own heartbeat. In the center stood the altar, an ancient stone slab overgrown with moss and vines, pulsating with an energy that felt both familiar and terrifying. I could feel the weight of time pressing down on me, the countless souls that had stood where I now stood, all drawn by the same dark pull. I swallowed hard, fighting against the rising tide of dread. Suddenly, Elowen appeared beside me, her expression fierce and determined. "We have to confront him, Rowan." She pointed toward the figure emerging from the shadows, the gaunt man, now fully formed and seething with anger. "You can't let him manipulate you." "Why did you not tell me before? Why didn't you warn me about the pact?" My voice trembled, caught between accusation and desperation. "This isn't the time for blame." Elowen shot back, her eyes blazing. "You need to understand your power. You are not just a victim, Rowan. You are part of this. You can break the cycle." I turned my gaze to the man, his hollow eyes locked onto mine, a sinister smile curling his lips. "You think you can defy fate?" he hissed, stepping closer. "You are bound by blood to this forest, and it demands its due. Your sister was the price, and you will pay the same or lose everything." "No!" I shouted, the word bursting from my lips like a flame. "I will not let this continue. I will not be the next sacrifice." The anger surged through me, mingling with the fear, igniting something deep within. The shadows gathered around, him swirling like a tempest, and I felt their coldness creeping into my bones. "You think you can resist?" he taunted, but his confidence wavered just for a moment. "It's not just me anymore," I said, my voice steadying, a fierce determination replacing my fear. "Elowen stands with me." I felt the warmth of her hand gripping mine, grounding me. The man recoiled, his expression shifting to one of rage and disbelief. "You dare to challenge me? You are nothing without your sister's blood." "Maybe," I retorted, "but I carry her spirit, and I will not let her memory be twisted into this darkness." I stepped forward, ready to confront whatever force bound me to this cursed legacy. The shadows surged, howling with fury, but I stood firm. The truth of my family's past surged within me, a fierce flame demanding to be acknowledged. I would not let the forest claim me or my sister any longer. With every ounce of strength, I raised my voice above the din, calling out to the spirits trapped in the forest. "Lily, I will find you. I will free you." And in that moment I felt a surge of power, a connection that transcended fear and doubt. The altar pulsed beneath me, and with it, I could feel the very heartbeat of the forest shifting. I was ready to confront the darkness that had haunted my family for too long. As the shadows clawed at me, I embraced the weight of my legacy. This was my moment, and I would seize it. I would not be a pawn in this twisted game any longer. I was ready to face the truth, no matter the cost. I stood my ground, the weight of the forest pressing down on me. Yet somehow, I felt lighter, as if a veil had been lifted. The gaunt man faltered, the shadows recoiling as I summoned the strength of my sister's spirit. "Lily!" I cried again, and the air crackled with energy, the very fabric of this cursed place tearing at the seams. The shadows twisted violently, and then, with a deafening roar, they surged towards me, an onslaught of darkness. I braced, myself ready to absorb the storm, but just as they reached me, a blinding light burst forth from the altar. It enveloped me, a protective shield formed from the love and memories I held for Lily. In that moment, I felt the darkness retreat, its hold on me loosening. The gaunt figure screamed, his form flickering like a dying flame, and I realized I was not just fighting for my life. I was battling for the souls trapped within this forest, including my sister's. As the light expanded, I felt the weight of the past pressing against the edges of my consciousness, the sacrifices, the pain, the endless cycle of fear that had gripped my family for generations. But the victory was bittersweet. With a final wail, the figure was consumed by the light, the shadows dissipating into the night. I fell to my knees, panting as the energy washed over me. I had faced the heart of darkness and survived, but the scars ran deeper than skin. My heart ached with the knowledge of what I had lost and the burden of what I had just uncovered. Aloan, I gasped, searching for her in the fading light. She rushed to my side, her eyes wide with concern. "You did it, Rowan. You broke the bond." But her voice held a tremor, a hint of unease. I looked around the clearing, the air still thick with remnants of the confrontation. "But at what cost?" I whispered, feeling the emptiness where my sister's spirit should have been. I set her free, yet I can still feel her presence. Elowen knelt beside me, a frown creasing her brow. "You didn't just fight for her, Rowan. You tapped into a power that goes beyond this forest. It's connected to something greater, something we don't fully understand." The ground beneath us trembled slightly, a subtle reminder that the forest was still alive, still watching. I felt a chill creeping back, a sense that this wasn't the end. The whispers had quieted, but a lingering echo remained, a promise of unresolved mysteries that hung in the air like a thick fog. Just then, a movement caught my eye. A figure emerged from the tree line, an older man, his face familiar yet foreign. "You've awakened the forest, Rowan," he said, his voice a low rumble. "But beware, for every action has its consequence." I felt Elowen stiffen beside me. "Who are you?" I demanded, rising to my feet, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. "Someone who knows the truth," he replied, glancing at the altar, now dimming with the fading light. "And someone who can guide you, if you dare to seek it." "Law." He stepped into the clearing, the shadows danced around him, hinting at the depths of his knowledge and the dangers that awaited. I exchanged a glance with Aloan, and in that brief moment, I understood. This was merely the beginning. "Let's find out what lies beneath this forest," I said, my voice steady. "Together." But deep down, I sensed the darkness lurking, still ready to strike again. The forest was not finished with us, and neither was our journey. As I stood there, the weight of my choices pressing on my chest like the very trees surrounding us, I felt the unmistakable pull of fate. The old man watched us intently, his gaze piercing through the shadows that lingered at the edges of the clearing. "You've awakened the forest, but you now face its wrath or its mercy," he warned, his voice a low, echoing rumble. I could sense two paths unfurling before me, each lined with thorns and darkness. One offered a chance to seal the forest's power, to imprison it once more, and release the souls trapped within, my sister among them. But in doing so, I would forsake my own freedom, binding myself to this cursed place forever, a guardian in chains. The other path was more sinister. I could harness the forest's power for myself, embracing its darkness. In return, I would be granted the strength to reshape the world as I saw fit. Yet it would come at the cost of my humanity. The forest would consume me, twisting my heart into something unrecognizable, a puppet of its will. I looked at Elowen, her eyes wide with fear and hope. I was torn between the love I felt for my sister and the intoxicating allure of power. The shadows pulsed around me, whispering promises of grandeur and vengeance. Would I sacrifice myself to free the lost, or would I seize the dark gift and risk becoming a monster? "Rowan," Elowen's voice broke through my turmoil. "You must choose." With a heavy heart, I stepped forward, the forest's energy crackling around me. My decision loomed like a storm on the horizon. In that moment of silence, I felt the weight of generations upon my shoulders, the echoes of those who had come before me. "Together, we can face whatever comes next," Elowen urged, her hand reaching for mine. I took a breath, my heart racing. I had to choose, and as I stood at the crossroads of fate, I realized that whatever path I chose, the forest would never let me forget the price of my decision. The shadows thickened, and the forest watched, a silent witness to the choice that it would seal our destinies. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.